Hello, and welcome to Guidance for Better Life. Today's show, I believe, could help almost everybody, at least based on my experience. It's about your happiness has a direct correlation with some of your thoughts and how much you control your thoughts. And my guest today is a professional in that. She learned the hard way. I think she would agree. And she's going to tell us what she learned. And I hope you stay tuned. Hi, Carmen Spitali.
Hi
You're a
there.
professional.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
that's an overstatement. But you learn that through a lot of years of not being real happy,
Right.
that when your thoughts got out of control and you have the authority to control them, you weren't so happy. And when you started putting boundaries on what you'd fuss over and think about, your happiness went way up. Is that the gist of it?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it started with a dream where the divine showed you some of these qualities. You had some anger and some thought. You didn't control your thoughts. You'd fuss on stuff that was kind of not a big issue. And it bled into your day and you weren't so happy.
Right.
So this is I'm so glad you're here, because this is something I think everybody can at least improve on somewhat. But this dream, you had a dream that really gave you clarity, like, okay,
Right.
this is the problem.
It was time to really draw that line and say no at this point. That's what the
Okay.
dream really gave me.
Okay.
So in the dream, I was dreaming, and I woke up in the dream and went downstairs in my home and realized that the two main doors to our house were open a crack.
Okay.
And this, I was really uneasy about this. So did I leave them open? Did somebody break in? And then I woke up. And it was one of those dreams that I knew was really significant and that I
Okay.
needed to pay attention to. But I
Okay.
didn't know what I was being shown. And I knew it was a gift from God, from the divine, saying I needed to go deeper.
Yeah, the idea of waking up in physical life and your doors are open can be very unsettling.
Right,
So I can see how that dream really caught your attention, but you weren't
Yeah.
sure what the problem was.
exactly.
Okay.
So I took it into contemplation, which is something that I've learned at the school,
Okay.
where I could ask the divine for insight as to what I'm being shown.
Since the divine gave you the dream,
Right,
ask the divine, Holy Spirit, what were they trying to tell you? It's really that simple.
exactly.
Okay.
And so I started with singing Hugh, a love song to God, and with the intent to understand the dream. And I pretty much immediately started to get insights. And what I understood was one of the doors was they were gateways to negativity in my
Okay.
life.
And they were open
Right.
to negativity.
So I had these two main gateways, and then I got further information as I sat quietly and listened. One of the gateways was self-doubt, specifically allowing thoughts of unworthiness. And it wasn't just, we all have occasional doubt about ourselves. This was daily,
Okay.
always in the background.
That you're unworthy of what?
Unworthy of love.
Okay, that God couldn't love you, your
right.
husband couldn't really love
Exactly.
you. If he
God-
really knew you, he couldn't love you.
Yes.
Okay, boy, that can be draining.
Extremely draining. Just always, and thoughts like, I can't.
Okay.
At this point in my life, when I wrote this, that was something that was really being brought to my attention. Was I frequently would think like that. And it was very debilitating.
Yeah. Almost paralyzing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was one aspect. And then the other was anger. And this is something, when I was saying it's been a process, I knew I had issues with anger before.
Okay.
And it's been a slow process of understanding it and releasing that part of my
Was
life.
the Holy Spirit saying you've got more work to do, basically?
I think he was saying it was time to stop focusing on it. Like, really draw the
Okay.
line now. Like, you can do this. And because and I had been given a memory at that point of the night before when I got angry. I got mad. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that I allowed myself to focus on that anger.
Okay.
And then I started getting mad about things in my life that were actually fine.
It sounds like your anger on one thing that you could have just been angry and been okay and got over it.
Right.
It bled into things that had nothing to do with the original anger.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Which,
Yeah. That I've seen that a lot in folks.
yeah.
You have one bit of anger, instead of feeling real guilty, you get over it, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
But in your case, then everything you start feeling angry about, even
Right.
though there's no reason to.
Yes.
Wow, that's got to be exhausting.
Yeah, extremely.
Awesome.
And it, can ruin relationships in your life.
Yeah.
And
It didn't help your marriage early on.
No.
You said somewhere about you could, to a certain degree, create your own consciousness. What did you mean by that?
So, something I've learned up at the school is that we have a choice on what we focus on. And we can choose to focus on the love and blessings we have in our lives, which we all have so many, or we can choose to focus on negative
Okay.
and anger or fear or worry. We can actually choose that.
So you can choose a consciousness that's more on the negative side. Does that make your life happier?
Not at all. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
So you said in your story, and your story's in Testimonies of God's Love, Book 4, and I think this is audio now and Kindle. That's on my website, my author page on Amazon down below. But you said in your story, I don't want to get it wrong because it was beautiful, about you can choose your own state of consciousness.
mm-hmm.
And how do you say that? Something like a home? It's like your home?
right. Like, I was viewing my state of consciousness like my home. I want my home to be warm and inviting to people when they
Okay.
come in. I want them to feel love.
And when you're thinking negative thoughts all the time,
Right.
and you said also not to feel bad if you're occasionally angry or get upset. The thing is, feel it and get over it. Don't
Right.
just let it bleed into everything
Right. Dwelling in that state.
and dwelling in it and just
Yeah.
not getting over it and over it.
Mm-hmm.
So by setting boundaries on how much you think about the negative things, get over it if you're angry. Is this what you're saying? Not sometimes you get angry, but contain it into that situation, look at it, get over it, and move on. And don't let it bleed into your consciousness, your warm house.
Right.
Is that what you're basically saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah. And I think that I've received a lot of help with that. We don't have to do it all ourselves. We can ask
Okay.
for help.
When you ask, you mean like pray
from
for
God.
help?
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
pray for help if it's something that, because for me, it was something that used to control me. And
Okay.
I feel that, I have asked for help and I've received that help over time. It's a process.
Okay. So are you encouraging people that they don't have to stay in that state if you ask for help?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, did you do some of it yourself, or did you have the divine
Yeah,
do everything?
I had to make that choice. I had to draw that line and consciously say no. When those thoughts come in, and gratitude's huge, been huge for me.
Okay.
If I start to go down that road where I notice those
that
thoughts,
negative road. Okay.
Stop and count some blessings. That helps me.
Okay.
Focus on the good things that you have in your life, the love.
Yeah. And you have a lot in your life. Your husband
Yeah.
loves you dearly. You love him. Your beautiful daughter. You've got a beautiful life. And so
do.
are you saying when you start looking at some of the wonderful things in your life and don't spend so much time, it takes a little self-control also,
Right.
I guess, to don't just keep focusing on the stuff that's annoying you. The story, I think the title in your book is Happiness in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's chapter 14. It says happiness and self-control.
Right.
So are you tying together your state of happiness is directly related to what you let your mind focus on?
Absolutely.
I
I
think
think so.
that's a key for a lot of folks out there.
Yeah.
Very cool. Did you just one day after the dream just figure it out? Or did it take time to get new habits? Or was it instantaneous?
Not instantaneous.
Okay.
No, it
I
took
didn't
time.
think it would be, but I was.
Yeah. It's a daily choice, I think, for a
Okay.
while, maybe even. You know, becoming aware of it is, having that light shed on it is huge, because then when those opportunities arise and those thoughts arise, I'm like, okay, no,
No.
not going to
No
go
to
there.
the thoughts.
Right.
Okay, maybe, and you said focusing on things you're grateful for.
Yes.
Did that help shift the negative thoughts?
Yes, it should, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you recommend if people control their negative thoughts? And you said in your book, if you have them occasionally, don't feel bad about it.
Right.
But don't dwell on them. Don't just keep building them up.
Exactly.
Go through them and be done with them and move on.
Right.
It has a direct correlation with your happiness. Awesome.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Nope, just, if you do feel like you are angry a lot, or there is something in your life that you do want to change, you can do it.
You can.
You really can.
God gives us free will, and that means you can choose what you focus on. Might take a little effort, it sounds
Yes.
like, but you say it's worth it.
It's absolutely worth it.
So,
Yes.
thank you very much, Carmen.
Thank you.
So Carmen says something I truly agree with her, that if you want to be more happy, start considering controlling some of the negative thoughts. Don't let them bleed into things where there's not a problem, like anger. If you're angry about something, maybe okay, but don't then be angry about everything all day long. So I hope today blessed you in some way, and thank you for watching our show.